very good speaker to speak on that topic. Prabir, as you know, is professor at the RIS. He is a highly respected economist who has worked extensively on international trade issues, on regional economic integration, and in fact, he has also done a lot of work on BRI in recent past. Prabir has been closely associated with the Institute of Chinese Studies, and at our special request, he is today giving a recap on Belt and Road initiatives. 5 years plus period we have seen since its launch in late 2013. You recall that Xi Jinping launched it with two major speeches, one in Kazakhstan, which inaugurated the land component, continental dimension of Belt and Road Initiative. At that time it was known as One Belt, One Road, OBOR. So Chinese nomenclature hasn't changed, it remains the regional dimension was launched in speech in Malaysia. After relatively slow start, took some time before contours of BRI became clear. By middle of 2014, it was already clear that BRI is the signature initiative of Xi Jinping, and this is something which is going to require really a position of great importance in China's foreign policy. And as you know, since then it has been enshrined in the statutes of both CPC and the state constitution, and but it has gone through a trajectory which is not entirely upward trajectory. It has elicited a fair amount of concern outside China and to some extent within China as well. You recall the first BRI forum, which was held in May 2017 and hosted by Xi Jinping himself. At that time, we decided not to participate. In fact, we not only absented ourselves from the forum, but came out with a remarkably, long document, statement, offering critique of BRI and what are the problems we see with this initiative. Many of those concerns that we had voiced in somewhat uncharacteristically frank and candid fashion in May 2017 have since been articulated elsewhere as well. And position of some major countries like USA in particular has undergone a significant shift. Many of those concerns have been reflected in comments coming from the developing countries. Though on the whole, despite these reservations, BRI is in fact moving ahead. There is no doubt about it. I was just reading an article in Foreign Affairs earlier this week, which suggests that reports about the death of BRI are highly exaggerated. That BRI is a signature initiative of Xi Jinping, and this is something which is likely to move ahead. Though there is some course correction which is in evidence already. I'll not try to anticipate what Prabir has to say. Prabir is going to review achievements of BRI during its first 5 years, do a sort of stock taking, look at some of the problems it has run into, and also examine opportunities that BRI offers to various countries, including India.
Sir, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure coming to Institute of Chinese Studies. I'm also adjunct fellow here. And as an adjunct fellow, I was told to be seminar, and it is long due actually. So to come early this year and the free time I have not much work at RIS, and also an opportunity to meet several people here whom I know very, very well. I have been following Belt and Road Initiative since inception. And recently, last year, I visited a couple of conferences in the region. Chinese officials, scholars, we met Kathmandu, also in Dhaka and Colombo. My Facebook page talks something different, don't follow that. Sometimes we have to make a lot of pictures, but seminars and conferences and exchange of scholarly articles actually helped us to work closely, more minutely and rigorously on the Belt and Road Initiative. So I thought to review the project, despite lack of quantitative information. Meanwhile, last year, Mr. Harinder Kohli from Emerging Market Forum in Washington and his team somehow managed to do quite a good amount of good data from Beijing. And the run-up to G20 summit, Emerging Market Forum organized a big conference in Tokyo, and I was also along with Professor Isar Aluwalia, Inikriya, and another team. So I could manage to get that data, and I've been thinking to share it with the wider audience. Meanwhile, also I received some research inputs from LKI, Lakshman Kadaragama Institute in Colombo, Swati in Nepal, and then Center for Policy Dialogue in Dhaka, and SDPI, Sustainable Development Policy Institute in Islamabad. All of them are working on specific BRI projects supported by the Chinese government, several international agencies, so on and so forth. So I have, in my presentation, I have many slides and statistics, and I won't be able to go through, very minute detail. I will leave the presentation here. Paper is coming, a book is coming, contributed by several practitioners and scholars in the region. Probably the book will be coming toward the end of this year. But if you have any particular interest, I can share some of the documents which are not available on the web for the larger interest. So let me, how I arrange my presentation, I will talk about, just to try to give you a glimpse about what is BRI, and then compare with 2013 when it was launched, and now what till 2018. And then I will likely take you to several financial commitments. But we got the data, the Chinese government shared only for the first 2 years of the BRI, 2013 and 14. Again, these projects are on approval basis, not on actual. So you have to be careful while reading out and including. Then I did some case studies on Sri Lanka and Pakistan, and I try to share with you some of the projects, where is the debt component, how the financing going on, and how the government is facing the burden of debt in both the countries. And what particularly, I'll spend some time on the China. Many things will be known to you. And then I will draw some conclusions. I'm not going to speak about the BRI challenges that South Asian countries will be facing. I'm just looking about. Let me come to the first slide. Look, I picked up an illustration about very 2013, which is done by the European Union. I didn't look at the Chinese draw maps or the agencies in China. So, but all are the same, that all several corridors moving from east to west. Components Belt and Road Initiative, several nomenclatures sometimes are confused with the words and nomenclatures. So I'm still, learning from several BRI projects. So pardon me in case I could not pronounce it properly, or I missed out some of the corridors. So BRI, we know also the Silk Road economic belt, and also the maritime Silk Road. Silk Road economic belt, it cuts across the land, maritime, which is in the sea. First initiated, unveiled in 2003 in Astana, which is called One Belt and One Road in 2013. And sometimes in the same year, somebody in the South Block or here in Delhi was telling China, फिर mobile phone launch कर दिया, it's called One Belt, One Road, that kind of things, in 2013. Soon after, India hosted that 20 years celebration of ASEAN-India strategic partnerships at Delhi. So even we didn't know that the way it is unfolding, such big projects by 2017, 340 billion, that's what Chinese investment they claim. So it is personally motivated by, followed by the President's office in China. It has 7 corridors in 2013. Now it has 11 corridors. I will place both the maps soon after. And then it is 5 years old. It's completed 5 years. It has 5 thematic areas: policy coordination, facilitation of connectivity, trade investment, financial integration, cultural exchange. But when we met with Chinese scholars and officials from DRC and CAS, they are smartly moving these projects from hardware-based multimodal connectivity and energy, water, to more towards soft infrastructure. So they are telling, we are picking up what India is doing with the soft connectivity. Because as you know, there are apprehensions, there are cancelling of the projects on hard infrastructure. So 2014 and 17, Chinese investment in the BRI reached 340 billion. But this is on approved basis, not actual. Actual takes time. It's now 92 countries, 65% of the population, so huge in terms of the coverage. But there are some troubles. The China has backed, Malaysia has backed out, East Coast, high-speed corridor, so on to some of the other countries. What's actually BRI is trying to achieve? Numbers tell, it's a big projects all through the world. Some literature indicates it is a colonization within China in the contemporary period. If you just see the numbers, and almost, I see the World Bank, and the numbers given by other agencies, almost same. The share in the world population 65%, GDP 45%, goods 35%, energy reserve 75%, 60 plus countries coverage. And what type of projects that BRI is actually moving in? Port, SSA, high-speed rail, airport, township roads, energy projects, pipeline, customs, corporation, digital connectivity, etc. Then soft infrastructure, which are not only in 5 years, but they will be picking up, I think, in the next 5 years or 10 years now.
Can I just share in world GDP? You're saying what the countries?
The countries who are touched by, touched by the BRI projects, one or more. So it is the China-centric global order. And by the way, Belt and Road Initiative, it is not a free lunch. It is concessionary finance. There is a small technical assistance component, but I will speak later on that. So it is purely on the merit of the project that the Chinese is going to claim, but there are many other things in the behind, and you know it, why it is there. BRI, as we know, this is the last map issued in the Xinhua, and also US Department of Defense and other agencies. You can see the Maritime Silk Road and the Belt Road, One Belt, One Road there. But let me show you that how it has expanded over time. 2013, when it was launched, it was 5 corridors. These were the corridors there. But if you see 2018, last year, several networks are expanded. It is touching. It reached there with Latin America and African countries. They're all added, and also in Pacific. And if you do the geographical spread, which I just did, basically with me also my research colleague Durai Rajkumar, he's also sitting here. He's also helping me picking up lots of data and preparing some of the slides. So 2013, this is green was the spread. But if you come 2018, it has reached almost everywhere except the North America. Now, this is basically, it is not a plot, it is basically a plot of loans or a basket of free lunch. And the plots are, you can see several sort of, loans linking with the corridors, linking with the customs cooperation, several projects and projects. So if we now, but China is just telling that, look, this BRI, it is 45% world GDP, but it is all about cooperation. I'm not forcing you. I'm telling you are approaching me that I need your money, I need to build my harbor or special economic zone. So let's discuss. It's all cooperation basis. But look at CPTPP where China is not there, RCEP where I'm there. But China has a huge, as you know that China has a huge problem with RCEP. It's not India, with the e-commerce. They are not accepting the e-commerce chapter. Out of the 17 chapters, 9 chapters in the RCEP has been concluded. But China, Australia and India being the big issues in the e-commerce chapter. And you know why. So it is not just India, it is also China is involved in slowing down the RCEP negotiation. So they are telling that it is all about liberalization. And liberalization means commitment, binding commitments. So that's the difference. So probably this is very appealing to the countries who are looking at the BRI more, prosperity. Let me come to what is the motivation of the BRI for the China, because I know the China's economy is going down. But China is targeting by 2030 to exceed the US GDP size. So they have to actually evacuate their unused steel, cement, construction, the workers abroad. So this is a project. On one hand, you extend your loan component, and then you tell the recipient country to buy back, including the resources, the human resources, and everything. I had an opportunity to look at some of the CPUC economic zone in Pakistan, and through my network partner in SDPI in Islamabad, and they returned back with my queries that some of the zone are 100% is the Chinese workers, no Pakistani workers actually working. So there are issues there. So it is the steel, cement, construction activities, high-speed rail. These are actually China has huge overcapacity. Send it back. Otherwise, there will be a huge economic loss in China itself. And by doing so, China's another challenge is reduce the regional disparity in China. Xinjiang versus Shanghai or Kunming versus some other place. There's a huge amount of regional disparity income. Maybe probably you maintain certain amount of production by sending it to an overseas, and by which you can distribute the welfare among the states, provinces, trying to so these are the motivations for the China side that I found while talking to the Chinese scholars and officials. Now coming to the financing, that two banks actually heavily involved, China Development Bank and China Exim Bank. These two banks come very much. Then there is a fund called Silk Road Fund, 40 billion. A Silk Road Fund is managed by actually the President Xi Jinping office, and it is quite relaxed arrangements. But if you go for a consistent financing through Exim Bank, China Development Bank, there are a lot of discussion, negotiation, etc. But Silk Road Fund is something which is basically political motivation. It comes first. There is a contingent reserve facility, 100 billion. Two arms, that one is the New Development Bank, but AIIB. But AIIB, New Development Bank, or BRICS Bank, they are not directly involved in Belt and Road Initiative projects. Who picks the bill? Borrowing countries, China, of course, but small amount here, which is the technical assistance. Technical assistance, which is 0.00 some digit, 0 after that some digit will come. That will tell you basically in case China has given some concessionary loan to support a project. That concessionary money, the free money, actually goes on paying business class airfare for top officials, economy for others, hotel, writing feasibility report, distributing money to the think tanks in the name of doing the studies and all. So that part is basically the technical assistance China gives, which is almost very equal to if you get money from ADB or the World Bank, very similar in a similar scale. Otherwise, free money to it. So far the project is concerned, not there. But of course, I must tell you that there are huge potential contributions in the global community. First is providing, of course, a significant amount of capital. Who is now next to China is providing it? And in the name of Indo-Pacific, US said, I'm going to give something around 100 billion. So there was a lot, you were trying that. You were talking about Indo-Pacific, you're coming with 100 billion. China is already given about 200 billion like that. So there is no other than China who is coming out the next single fund, huge fund. Then it has a focus on the long-term development of most of the developing countries. Most of the developing countries, one agenda is that they have to, first is that to export more and more and improve the domestic capacity. Domestic capacity development, most of the developing countries that you cannot put internal burden to your population. So if there is some kind of a 2 to 3% interest above leeward comings, like the one China is giving, so grab it. And later on, we will, and of course, the loan comes, that is, moratorium, 10 years. President can relax this moratorium case to case basis 20 years. So 10, 20 years, we'll see it. I will not be there. My next generation will deal with it. So, abhi le lo paisa, jo aa raha hai. Something like that. Then creating regional and big transport corridors, which are basically multimodal type, extending high-speed railway networks. Then several other projects, digital linkages, projects of customs corporations. So this is, what I think that basically it is a recycling of China's huge, large financial and production capacity and giving it to the developing world. So there are some contributions, potential contributions coming from BRI to the global economy. 5 years, what we have seen and what we may know but and we may not be knowing is that 65 countries, 65 to 85 countries are now undertaking civil projects in the BRI, something around it. It is, yes, a huge bet on the future prospect because there is, since there is no other competitor here, so all will be going into the China black hole. This is only one template, only one fund, only one country is giving to us. We need to always note, back and forth, or we need to do a counterfactual. So what is that? That's not there actually. Then in the name of Belt and Road Initiative, a lot of ambiguity. You don't know what is a master plan. You search Google, you don't get any data. The people who are involved from China, they want that I am engaging Dr. They to do this work for me. I'm not paying you. You are doing hard work for me. I will learn from you. So like me, there are several people across the world that are working on the Belt and Road Initiative. So Chinese is they're picking up from my own work. And from there they will be doing something tomorrow or maybe day after. Then you don't get any kind of investment data. All I have collected traveling in several places, it is about the data for first 2013 and 14. For the last few years data is not available. There are many anecdotes, very well. There's on Sri Lanka what's happened, on Pakistan what happened, on Malaysia. Even in Pakistan, Prime Minister himself has constituted a committee to review the Belt and Road Initiative projects. They are seriously thinking to cut short some of the corridors, some of the SEZ, some of the power plants, etc., etc. Malaysia has already announced, that they are not into the East Coast high-speed rail. 20 billion projects they have backed out because government said that we are not going out of any other Belt and Road Initiative project, but this particular projects we are unable to support it because the financial condition of the government is not good. But some Central Asian countries who are sharing borders and helping Chinese high-speed corridors, railway line, freights going to Europe, like Kyrgyzstan, they have really benefited and there are factuals which is available. The reality is that for last 2013 and 2017, something around 200 billion, already disbursed. And that's along with the Silk Roads. Oil and gas sector, they have received more support. Oil and gas, and then comes the power and not transportation. So transportation, I think, in the fourth position in terms of as a share in the total disbursement is oil, gas, and obviously China needs that energy, power sectors, which is a related component of the oil and gas. BRI projects are driven by, as I said, there's a loan with borrowing countries, but there are relaxed repayment schedule, like the Laupedia high speed, which is coming from Kunming 2020, which into Vientiane. I was told that China has given 20 years moratorium to Liberia. So, 20 years, that's, So this kind of repayment schedule, which is the president office, they decide, and depending on the political commitment. So let me now go to what the 5 years. Some of the statistics, I'll leave it here. I'll not go detail. I will be very quick. Like SRF is the Silk Road Fund. Silk Road Fund, 40 billion. Commitments to the Belt and Road Initiative countries, the financing instruments. What are the equity investment? The number of 5. So 3.5. So you can see that under the Belt and Road Initiative, the equity investment always it comes to as a partner China has joined. So 3.1 billion actually it is a Silk Road Fund commitment under the equity investments. Jointly managed fund, again that is China is there. So when it comes to Silk Road Fund, China insists that it should be jointly developed. Some projects where China can come as the equity investors, and if China's companies are not there, I will manage a fund. So that's called the joint managed fund. Loan component is only one project when it comes to SRF, but Silk Road Fund, which is one of the components, financing instruments for the Belt and Road Initiative. So this is between 2013 and 14 that we have seen it. Based on we just looked at the data released by the Emerging Market Forum in Washington. If you look by the sector-wise, it is the energy and finance, these two sectors have picked up most of it. Again, Silk Road Fund money. If you see the commitment, which countries? It is Kazakhstan, it is in industry and technology, it is in Russia, energy extraction, it is in UAE, energy generation, it is in Pakistan, amount we don't know, but it's not given in the fund, in the database. It is all about the energy. So Silk Road Fund commitments by country, if you look at it, is all went into energy exploration, extraction, distribution, like that. If you look by the other BRC, or the BRC countries, Belt and Road countries, I call it, official where it comes, the China Development Bank, China Exim Bank, Chinese government as a part of the Belt and Road Initiative sending money. So it is all about 2013-14. It is about energy generation and supply. It is in the US dollar million. So 17 billion is actually energy generation and supply. 20 billion went into transportation and storage facilities. 1.5 billion into industry and mining and construction, and then business and other services thereafter like this. So it's the energy generation, industry mining, transportation and storage when it comes to the official lending by aggregate 2013 and 14. Official lending, if you look at the total amount, so it is basically the 45 billion that is 2013-14, but this 45 billion has been now extended over 200 because if you have to count 15, 16 and 17 3 years, that data sector-wise, because I am giving this data, I have a detailed country-wise, sector-wise breakup of 40 pages. From there I aggregated. Now if you go by the region and the continent, I have Africa. In the Africa, it is about Kenya, this great railway line. It is in South Africa. It is a project in Morocco, Ethiopia, health sector, transportation sector. All it is coming something around. If you combine, all it is something around 15 billion US dollar. 2013 and 14, it went into Africa. If you come to South Asia. South Asia also same, I have sector-wise, country-wise, it is Nepal, Maldives, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. It is all coming about 22 billion US dollar 2013 and 14. If we just come to the Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia proposed, Liberia, Myanmar, Southeast Asia is relatively the low compared to Africa, South Asia. It is almost about $10 billion. That's what coming to the Southeast Asia in terms of corridors. If you come to the Central Asia, it is also around about 10 billion. I have there are backups. I'm not going to detail. I leave it with you, sir. If there's any interest, you can go to the data. If you come to Latin America, which is basically in the Bolivia and Uruguay, small, they just started in 2013, but there are issues in the internal issues in the Latin America, which actually prohibits them to borrow more from China. It's small money, about 1 billion. If you come to the Eastern and Southern Europe, where China has a huge interest because of the energy, it's Belarus, Macedonia, Serbia. You can see about $8 billion. If it is the Far Eastern and Russia, Mongolia in particular, it is coming about 1 billion. But as I said, the Silk Road Fund, which went into Mongolia and Russia more than official lending on the BRCs. If you come to other countries, like Bosnia, Herzegovina, Dominican Republic, etc., so they have also, China is very, somehow managed to expand the money to this all. Now, let me come to the two case studies. One is on Sri Lanka, and other one is Pakistan. I will do, then I will do the closing of the presentations. When it comes to Sri Lanka, there are 5 projects China involved. One is the Patala Hambantota International Airport, but it's construction. Hambantota International Port, Colombo International Financial City, Colombo International Container Terminal, and Putalam Coal Power Grid. So this is the 5 projects where Chinese funding is involved. But see the numbers. 2018 to 2017, Sri Lankan government took a loan about 7.3 billion. These are the actual figures actually, which I received from LKI, which is the Minister of Foreign Affairs think tank, and joint projects that they're doing. The grant amount is 0.01 billion for 2008-17, and then 1.1 billion actually FDI in China. But that FDI, which are coming into the SEZs, Hambantota, and several other places, and some other projects that China is planning to invest. And China Harbour Engineering Company and China Ports, they are also doing some. So 7.3 billion is the loan that China, Sri Lanka took from China. This is the port, operational. This is the breakwater they have built. So it is a new, huge construction. So it is nice to see this fantastic port going there. Then if that, see the other features in the Hambantota. It has a 99 years lease in July 2017 by signed by the Sri Lankan government, present government, and the China Merchant Port Holdings. They have formed a company called Hambantota International Port Group. Joint venture in the CM Ports, 85% is a shareholding of the CM Ports. So China Merchant Port has holding, and Sri Lanka Port Authority is only 15%. In return, the Chinese port agreed to invest 1.12 billion, which is a part of the FDI. But military use of the port is strictly prohibited. That's what the document indicates. Let's come to the Colombo International Financial City. It is 2.7 kilometers land reclamation. They want to bring, world-class city in South Asia. Presently, you can go to Colombo and you can see the construction. I have seen it. Last year I went twice, and city is under huge construction on the reclaimed land. 1.5 billion in investment with the China Harbour Engineering Company in the land reclamation of the BRI. And see the point, the wall land owned by the government. So government has ownership, but China Harbour Engineering Company will be given 1.2 square kilometer out of 2.7 square kilometer on 99 years lease. So that's the point. Again, here is also 99 years lease is involved. And by the British law, somebody was told me that Sri Lanka, India, on the British colony, 99 years is as good as 999. Some kind of perpetuity form. This is the actual, sorry, not actual, the artistic impression about the China Colombo International Port City. So now, what the economic opportunities for the Belt and Road Initiative that's given to the Sri Lanka? Sri Lankans think that they would like to be, economic. Sri Lankans, by the way, they told me and many others that we are not South Asian country. We are Indian Ocean country. We have a very high, we have to look at Indian Ocean, and we would like to be the economic hub of the Indian Ocean. Our ports are for the Indian Ocean, what's the India. So we need to build many ports, SEZs, international financial cities next to the port. That is the illustration we have seen. So by doing it, we need huge investments that would reduce the transportation costs. That is basically the only economic opportunities, that they could tell me. What are the challenges? They said that, environmental social impact is very huge. People in Sri Lanka, they are feeling that this land reclamation will be a disaster if tsunami happens. And Sri Lanka has incidents in the past. And this will be another disaster in terms of, climate change. So, not very clear. Some group is very strong group are not supporting the international financial city construction. On the port expansion in the Colombo Port Harbor, where China is also involved, they are fine, but they all about their, they are not very happy with the construction of the international financial city. Another challenge is to the public debt sustainability, whether they'll be able to, reduce the debt component. I have a slide on it, which I'll talk about more there. And the BRI projects is actually not linking with the national projects of China that they have. So I think it is, debt trap diplomacy in Sri Lanka. It is about 7.3 billion that they have to, but 2 billion. See the breakup, which I found. Just 2 billion is on the variable interest rate, which is the LIBOR, plus 2.3 percentage points. It varies, it is not a fixed variable interest rate. And many of the cases, there will be a point of variations, decimal, but that will be huge in the case of small economy like China and Sri Lanka. 5 billion, this is a concessionary fixed interest rate, 2%. But this fixed interest rate, 5 billion, which is the base, is huge wide. That's what you will be interest payment, all those will be very high. So there will be an added pressure to the Sri Lankan economy to collect more taxes, put a more tax burden. That's what's happening, to at least get the money so that we can transfer back and make the component, at least the fixed interest payment to the Chinese authorities. At least Sri Lanka should not be on default. Point 3, which is the lowest, the non-concessional fixed interest rate, and 6 to 6.5%. Basically, where risk is less. Risk less in the sense, in case there is an accident happening, you need an insurance, particularly Chinese worker. In case some kind of contingency happens, that much fund is basically kept for non-concessional fixed interest rate. That is why interest rate is very high. But look at China's overall, government debt for 2000 till 2017. 54% is basically, the Sri Lankan is saying that we are not worried about it. In any way, more than half is our internal debt, which central bank is looking at it. But they have, Japan, which is about 5%, India is 1.4%, Sri Lanka is 1.3%, China is 1.3%, China Exim Bank is 2.9%, international financial markets like World Bank, IMF, etc., that is in 21.6%. So almost about 70%, they are debt linked with multilateral commitments like IMF or other agencies, and then 54% is basically domestic. So this is 1.3% to the China government and 3% to the China Exim Bank. So we are not worried about it. We will manage it. That's what they are minded. But in any way, they also tell to us that, look, we have taken less money than you. In India, we have taken more, 1.4% from you. Now, how to maximize the benefits of the Belt and Road Initiative? I think for Sri Lanka, they need to make it consistent with the national and regional development plans. Sri Lanka is coming out with national development plans, the new one. So they are in touch with the Belt and Road Initiative, China, to make it compatibility at some level. Plus, China-Sri Lanka FTA negotiation in a very advanced stage. As you know, the Sri Lanka's ambition is to get and join into ASEAN. Routing through one by one to ASEAN countries. They are almost completed the negotiation FTA with Thailand, signed FTA with Singapore, joint study group is going on in Indonesia, FTA is going on, discussion is going on with China, with Bangladesh, joint study group they have completed. They are having a plan to do a joint study with Malaysia, and with Philippines. So Sri Lanka is very much, trying to join the ASEAN and RCEP initiative. So they want that somehow we need to go to China and ASEAN as the India looking at. Okay. So if that might, they think that Sri Lanka, that might give them more export opportunities and services in particular. Sri Lanka, I think this I skip. It might be hold on. Let me come to the China-Pakistan economic corridor. I have some 10 slides, but I will go through quickly. China-Pakistan economic corridor. It is basically construction of an integrated transport system. If you've been to Pakistan in the last 10 years, you agree with me, their roads, their highways, the railway system, telecom, very developed conditions, very, very bad managed. Railway is one of the most, they have no rolling capacity. So they are directly looking for infrastructure improvement. And somehow, countries rating international was getting, worse. So very difficult to get money from international donors. So only way that, they have to route it to some country, and they have harbored in China. And China was basically waiting to get that kind of, advantage. So now they have been grabbed, put in a huge money, and there are, advantages or disadvantages. So let me see that what are the road infrastructure. Kasgar, Islamabad, Peshawar, Islamabad, Karachi, Sukur, Badar Port, Hakla, Dera, Islamabad, etc., etc. These are 5 road infrastructure. Capacity expansion of the existing railway line, which is the Multan, Lahore, and Islamabad corridor. Construction and development of Badar and port and city and port. So these are the 4 major projects under China-Pakistan economic corridor. But they have 6 pillars. And 6 pillars actually on CPUC, it has many things to say. So pillar 1 is basically on the connectivity, information network infrastructure, built on digital network infrastructure, optical fiber cable, China's digital terrestrial multimedia broadcasting standard, TTMB. TTMB is basically the backbone for CCTV and the global Chinese global digital programs. Then promote ICT-enabled policies in Pakistan, helping Pakistan to draw its ICT policy. So we will obviously find very soon, I should not say very soon, but soon China-Pakistan there will be a convergence on ICT. Obviously, because technology will be. And in case you are negotiating, it could have taken a lot of time. So here it is just a simple convergence. If it is a pure negotiation based on what we are doing, it may take time. Ultimately you have to sign agreement. It may take 10 years to 15 years, but in this case it's so quick. First, build IT industrial park and IT industrial clusters in Pakistan. Pillar 2 is the energy enhancing power transmission and supply reliability, for which the Silk Road Fund is actually given 5 billion. And setting up the hydropower projects, energy pipeline, transmission line, actually revamping the whole energy infrastructure in Pakistan. Pillar 3 is the trade and industrial parks, setting up the SEZs and on the 6-7 sectors: chemical, engineering, agro, iron, steel, light manufacturing, home appliances, construction materials, textile and garments. So these are the industrial parks, SEZs that in Pakistan is and China is setting up. Pillar 3 is the trade and industrial park, which is our most into export oriented, near to the ports, Gabal, and along the corridors. And then pillar 5 in the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector, actually Pakistan went into the very grassroots village level, and to strengthen this technical expertise. So it's crop seed development, reproduction, field application of ICT in agriculture. There are many, many projects. By the way, Pakistan has opened a CPSC website. There are a fair amount of good data there, unlike others. Pillar 5, 4 is, again, it is the agriculture focus on the trade, which is basically the post-harvest technology, storage and transportation, and supporting or building the value chain with the trade partners. Desert development and strengthen remote sensing technology, strengthen agricultural inputs, and the collaboration in the forestry, horticulture, fisheries, and livestock and medicine in vaccines. So fair amount of projects, areas of interest, Pakistan have identified and doing under CPSC with China. Pillar 5 is the tourism. Basically, the promote is the coastal tourism with moving in the Karachi and Ghadar port, connecting them, to several other on the tourism projects. This project is up and under implementation, like linking the coastal cities like Keti Bandar, Karachi, Sonmiani, or Mara, etc., Gwadar and Jiwani. Pillar 6 is the concerning livelihoods, several projects on the livelihood, vocational training, educational facilities, etc. Municipal construction, training of the municipal officers, public transportation system, water supply, drainage, medical facilities, etc. Pillar 7, which is the last one, is financial cooperation. Financial cooperation, they have a three windows. One is the financial regulations. Here they talked about the currency swap agreements. By the way, Pakistan-China currency swap agreements yet to happen. Many other things are yet to happen. But they have signed the deal that we are going to do it. But these are the binding as a on corporate basis. Establish a bilateral payment and settlement system, particularly at the border area. Bilateral foreign exchange reserves. Establish the settlement payment and RMB cross-border trade, etc., etc. Then the second window for the financial cooperation is the cooperation between the financial institutions like AIIB, like China Development Bank, China Exim Bank, mutual opening of the financial sector, financial institutions in both countries, cooperation with the financial arms, stock market, etc., etc. Other third window in the financial cooperation is to cooperation in the financial markets like security markets, coordination, cooperation among the stock exchange, cooperation with a multi-currency, direct financing of the Pakistani settled and local government, etc., etc. So there are, three windows which are, as you know, the Pakistan financial market is not, that strong that we have, even it's worse than many other countries in South Asia. So they need special emphasis, special focus to strengthen the financial cooperation, particularly with China. And there are, some benefits that they're playing. Pakistanis scholars. There is also, as usual, an early harvest project under CPSC, and most of it's implemented on CPSC. 6 energy generation power projects completed already of 2014 and 18. Most of it, again, sending back to China. 11,000 megawatt of generation capacity and revival of the 5 export-oriented industries they have already completed. Cross-border optical fiber cable completed from Xinjiang area all the way to the Gwadar. Industrial zone management system put in place because SEZs, industrial parks, those are already there and they are set up. So you need to have some kind of arrangements, management and administration. Then consortium of top business schools from Chinese and Pakistani side also established. So these are, early harvest scheme that Pakistan said that we have already done. What are the SEZs they have, prioritized? There are 3-4 SEZs. I won't be able to pronounce all of them. One is the ICT SEZs, and there is SEZs for multi-products. SEZ the Balochistan. So these are spread across the country from the north to the south. Let me clarify some of the, some clarification I think I need to share with you. One is that it is not a debt-based project. Total completed project is 22 billion, of which is 2.42 is the loan component, 11% is the loan. Remaining contribution is the BOT, build, own or operate and transfer. So that is purely coming from Silk Road Fund, allowing Chinese to invest, you build, and then you transfer. Transfer period 30 to 35 years, that's what we came to know, but it's not very clear to us. This not mentioned in the CPSC website, which is set up by the Pakistan government. Payment arrangement, which is an average 2.5 to 5% interest. You can see this. This is quite above the LIBOR. Normally, if Pakistan, at the present moment, they may not be getting concessionary finance for international donor, but if they go then 1% to 1.5%, but in this case, somehow the loan part is 2.5 to 5% interest. Long-term maturity, which is the project-wise, but these are available on the cities side. Prime Minister Imran Khan, Excellency, he visited China, and what they are trying to do, because there are relocation of the Chinese factories from China to all over the world, because US-China trade war. So they made a deal that, look, there are sunset industries in China. You take them into the SEZs and industrial park, which are lying vacant. So you will allow them, but use Pakistani labor force. Presently, it is all about Chinese workers coming. So that's what the deal about. And they given in Brazil, Argentina auto sector trade. Means it is this Argentinas and Brazil, they are famous that one country produces the parts, it moves to Brazil, it makes the assembly, and they send it back to Argentina. So that's what Pakistan and China is saying, that I'm producing the car for you, you buy it from us. Buyback arrangements. It's purely not a value chain. It is a buyback. It's like Chinese companies setting up plant in SEZs, and where Pakistani's labor force are working, along with the Chinese people, and then send it back, the finished good back to the China. Now the Pakistani is telling that since the digital cable is there, port is operational, SEZ, some of them are ready, corridors is coming up, now it is a bilateral, let's move to others. These are the projects we have set up, why should we only restrict to China? So now they are telling these are early harvest scheme that was there, we have done it, and let's open to the third country. So they are telling, the latest document which they have released, they said that CPEC is open to all other countries, including India. So, and most of the special economic zone are lying vacant. Please come and invest. That's what the literature indicates. So what next? My concludatory remarks would be that presently, there are huge amount of global uncertainties, because of the US-China trade war, and the new type of embargoes that we have been discussing. New types, we even don't know how to give an answer and how to remove it in case of non-tariff barriers or very, very complicated barriers they want to introduce. So countries are very, very concerned about the future. It's not so easy selling time. The World Economic Prospect 2018, we can see in terms of global investment in the growth or in GDP, there is a downward trend. And so this is a time where investors, private sector are very cautious in that. And you can see yesterday newspaper that Tata has almost the equity part, they have decided to wind the Southeast Asian business. All Tata companies pick up van in Thailand or some projects in Southeast Asia, they have handed over to the China. Equity part, not the debt. China itself is the export is decelerating, if you see the region-wise. There's a growth rate, average annual growth rate, 2000 to 2000. This dip cut is the global financial crisis period, but somewhere they are moving there. So Chinese goods are facing huge deceleration, was expected. Well, slightly old data, but I will come back to it. What I mean that over time, it is Chinese export is decelerating, it's a trend. But see, the Chinese destination is also changing. China is picking up the new friends. 2013 is the Belt and Road Initiative initiated, and 2017 data. What I did, I just looked at the total export of China. Presently, total Chinese export is something around 2.28 trillion, of which 65% is advanced economies, but we don't bother about it. It is declining, and they will be the old people and middle-aged people are in the advanced economies. They will be consuming less and less. But who will be the younger guy? The emerging developing Asia, emerging developing economies will be, as is buying the gold. It is about India, it is about Bangladesh, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, African countries. They will be the new markets for us. Another one is you can also see that the Chinese export earnings, anyway it's more than 90%, is also declining from non-fuel export earnings. So this is somehow indicates that their exports are somehow declining, but they are picking up the new destinations globally. It is the emerging and developing countries. It is emerging and developing Asia in particular, Africa, and some countries which are in South Asia. That is what their destinations. What about? Sorry, it's a mistake. It is not exports, it's imports. So their total import is 1.8 trillion, and their import sources are also changing. Advanced economies, there is a deceleration, and they're falling as a source. But it is about the emerging developing countries, emerging developing Asia, from where the China is buying more. Middle East, North Africa, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, China is buying more. So these are somewhere we look at the emerging and developing Asia more closely. What actually China is buying, and probably if India has an interest, then we need to have more trade and investment cooperation links with these. There are huge challenges. First is the credit worthy, because many of the BRI countries, they have a standard poor rating very bad, but they get money. Poor domestic governance is a big issue. If government changes, things change, and as it happened in Malaysia and other countries. Sri Lanka is another example. Many of the countries, they do not have strong institutional capacity. So how they are going to manage these projects taken on loan, even they don't clear. So that will be on ad hoc and in consultation with Chinese authorities. Coordination is a big issue when in internal coordination like India in terms of managing projects is a big issue. So if internally fragmented, so that's also a big challenge for managing the Belt and Road. And of course, winning the hearts and minds of the local population and authorities. I don't think everybody is supporting the work of the money from the China. There are issues, as I said, in international finance and city construction in Sri Lanka or in Pakistan and Malaysia. Everywhere, those are getting multiplied. What the expected developments? China's authorities putting out 200 above billion in debt worldwide. They are not also sitting idle. They are just watching how to make it more better, more attractive. So I think the way they are discussing with us, this is purely my own views, it is that they will continue with the Belt and Road Initiative with a little bit, in different directions or twisting into soft connectivity aspects, more into digital. But I think physical and digital connectivity will continue, be it in China's Belt and Road Initiatives, in the active policy projects, some bigger corridors that's being discussed separately than BRI or ACTIST, driven by the Americans or the Australians. I think that will be, all this is going to add somehow the new quality of the trade, because the barriers at the border getting dismantled. I even never realized 2-3 years back, visiting to the eastern border post called Mori. 4th of January, Prime Minister's inaugurated the integrated checkpost. And it is, I can share more details. I haven't visited, but I have collected it from somebody. So that happened, in fact. We are strengthening our border infrastructure. Countries will not change coming back from those tracks. So I think that this is going to add anyway. I'm optimist, so sort of a new phase of trade facilitation we'll see. One is that we have a trade facilitation agreement, WTO, where all the countries have signed. Japan is coming with the quality infrastructure projects. Japan is, not very interested to give money for repairing the topsoil of the road. They said, look, if you would like to construct a road, I'd like to check whether it is consistent or it is, disaster proof or not. So they would like to link the quality infrastructure. That is the Prime Minister that is, for the last few years he has been, promoting that. These are also, somehow the main problem with global trade is not the tariff, it is the non-tariff measures. So these are have been reducing, these are very much, helping us to reduce the NTMs. Like example, China, Pakistan, if they can convert the technology in ICT, I don't go get into the politics, but this kind of a mutual recognition or harmonization, we have been now talking about when we talk about, in the case of ASEAN or bilateral. So there are the good points I can think, pick up with from Belt and Road initiatives. There are rise of global and regional value chains. So if you are part of BRI, you are getting linked with the value chains. India somehow lacks in the value chain linkages. Is it good or bad? I'm not going to discuss. But if you are part of a global value chains, which is managed by the China or any other countries, you are benefited out of it in terms of the production, in terms of export, in terms of technology, in terms of human resource skilling. Presently, why India-ASEAN trade is all about India's less and less export is that we are not linked with ASEAN countries in the value chain, whereas China is very heavily involved. Then another is that more people seeking freedom in China than that. How long will you tell them do not use Google? And my Chinese friends, they don't use WhatsApp. They only send me WhatsApp messages, just call us when they come out from China. So there are huge, people are seeking freedom in China mainland. It is a matter of time, I think. We need to see, how the Chinese government manages it. Then, if we speed up this FOIP, somehow China and Japan, they have agreed. The Japan is joined the Belt and Road Initiative. Japanese are thinking China-India issues we need to look at differently, but Belt and Road Initiative is economic opportunities for Toshiba, for Mitsubishi, for all their big companies. So let's not oppose, just join and grab them. What is high-speed railway line will be going to, so why not we also get the Kawasaki? That is basically Kawasaki company who is actually the Chinese high-speed engines. So China is looking, but if they speed up the free and open Indo-Pacific, including or excluding China, I don't know what will happen, but this is likely to, Indo-Pacific or FOIPs. That. And then I think the success of Belt and Road Initiative, from South Asia point of view, we need to ask China, because every country is having huge deficit, and that's also, expanding. If you have a current account deficit and countries overall running a deficit in current account, you'll always try to neutralize it by bringing FDI, because FDI adds to your capital account, that is neutralizes your current account balance. So deficit. So overall, then the deficit will be less. So, but China is not investing in South Asia. This is all in the trade, because they know very well. If I have the Belt and Road Initiative, border barriers are dismantled, so it is easily to expand the existing factory in China. So it is quickly to, go and send it them, because you don't have to tariff jump, or you don't have to jump the border to sell the goods. You only have to set up a subsidiary. Great example is the mobile phone. There's the Oppo or whatever Chinese mobile phone. India, a big example. They have a Make in India scheme in here, small, but see, the back home is how much value addition they need. So we need more FDI from China. Way ahead, in 5 minutes, I think it is BRI is economic and business opportunity. If you look at, I'm not, but it is, we use the word, some other conditions there, of course, that, some of the, I think by going with the Belt and Road Initiative, particularly with China, we can streamline non-tariff measures. we are coming out, we did a study recently, me and Dubai Raj, and as a part of our same negotiation, both the joint secretaries, Damurabi and Anurag from ASEAN, and the former Commerce Secretary, Rajiv Khirsan, we were presented, we made a big presentation on that. So it is I can tell you that from the studies that streamlining NTMs is a big challenge. China opened up the tobacco, the Indian tobacco, but please tell me after 6 months how many raw tobacco exporters from India will be able to export it. They will stop you in compliance with the standard. So we and the small and medium enterprises who will be exporting the raw tobacco, they are not equipped to manage those standards and compliance. So they will lose 1 or 2 months time, and by the time then China will be taking it from somewhere else. So that's what I think paperless trade, service trade, investment, soft infrastructure, startups, artificial intelligence, high-speed data exchange, fintech, blockchain. So these are new areas we can think for. With China through BRI or without BRI, with other countries coming in, putting in there. Somehow I think we need to have an economic corridor concept that will, instead of a highway, that will help you in value chain, in bringing in other multimodal transportation connectivity. BCIM economic corridor, somehow China has put in their Belt and Road Initiative map. But Indian official view is that BCIM is not part of BRI. But BCIM economic corridor, I will tell you the latest status. Professor Subra is here, Ambassador Kansu is here. They'll be able to highlight more if you're very interested. But BCIM is still, it is the economic corridor that we thought much before BRI came in place. So that kind of big projects we need, not just point-wise transportation connectivity. We need also bilateral regional investment agreement with China and other BRI countries. If India is going to the BRI, or just hypothetically if India goes into BRI, then other 65 countries or 90 countries that we will have a chance to look at their investment regime more closely. I said that it is a synergy between active policy and BRI, but many of my friends, they heavily criticize me on this, so I just skip. 5 recommendations. I think I should skip it here, but the one I will close it with the final one, which I have been telling that, look, first 4 bullet point.
I am skipping the recommendations.
Oh, I want to discuss. It is that South Asians, negotiation with China. I have been telling that South Asian countries that you just don't go and you cannot negotiate with them. Bangladesh cannot. You give everything, they will accept. So also other countries. It is better you come and make a forum with South Asia team. Then India can do a better negotiation for you. So that kind of South Asian approach.
That's right.
So, but instead of you go alone, but let's do it. Jointly. Point number 2 is physical infrastructure won't help. We need a Chinese FDI. Chinese companies, not just in mobile phone, in many other areas, not in Hawaii. China to open up markets also for us. South Asian countries, they have to do it. But China said that I am ready to open it up, but you come and learn from us. Let's have a more discussion on standards, more discussion on trade facilitation, more discussion about the market, and etc. etc. We should not compete, better collaborate, but maybe not all the time it is feasible. And South Asian approach is better, for a bigger deal with China. Final one, the last bullet point, I think I would elaborate on point that if we need to see a BRI successful, and it has to be multilateralized. It is not a China project. It should not be a China project. It should be a global project. How it can be done multilateral is the way China did AIIB. That you have started a patent initiative. You want many other countries to join. If you want, if you respect their joining with you, like, if you respect their sovereignty or territorial integrity, then invite many others. Make it multilateralized, very transparent. Bring international people to manage it, not just few people, they are in Beijing. So if that is done, giving lots of transparency on the good governance, you have any institutions in China, but no governance in China. I have worked there as a visiting. All governance is many places is missing. So both you need all these things if are there, then obviously it will grow smoothly. People will participate. You will win the heart and minds on the South Asian. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Also for collating so much data which is not really available on BRI. That I'll before I open the floor for discussion. One question I wanted to pose to you that I wish to elaborate on a little bit on how have you sourced data?
A little loudly.
Yeah, one question I'm posing to Prabir is that big problem we have when we try to assess Belt and Road Initiative is absence of reliable data. And the fact that it remains a highly opaque enterprise even now, more than 5 years since it was launched in late 2013. Prabir has done a very valiant job of trying to put together a lot of data. He has mentioned that the slides are backed up with many more slides giving details of data he has collected. So I'll request him to elaborate on that point a little bit. Because some of the data, frankly, one has some concerns about it. For instance, Sri Lanka, that Sri Lanka has taken more debt from India than from China. Our data, loans figures are very much available in public domain. Loans we have given, they are mostly through, Exim Bank credit which has been given. It's nowhere close to $7.5 billion, that Chinese have offered to Sri Lanka according to your data. Or that refer to Pakistan, that only 11% of projects are debt-based projects. Remaining are BOT or some variant of BOT. So if you may like to just clarify from where did you source data? For instance, on Sri Lanka, is it Sri Lankan government data, CPEC, is it Pakistani data? And also a related query I have, why is it that China is not providing data? Because I can tell you that they are good at collating our numbers. And in case of Belt and Road initiatives, sources of funding, as you very rightly brought out, are limited. Bulk of these projects are being funded through loans given by policy banks, whether it's Exim Bank, China Exim Bank, or China Development Bank. Contrary to popular perception, neither AIIB nor CDB is an important player. Silk Road Fund is emerging as a player, but still it's nowhere close to what role policy banks are playing in funding BRI projects. Why is it that China has been so reluctant to give its facts and figures, especially data on the projects it's funding under BRI? Another related question on data. You have front-loaded 2013-14. Is it because of the fact that many of the projects which are already in the pipeline and which were not necessarily BRI projects were repackaged as BRI projects, which led to this impression that 2013-14, a large number of projects were taken up under OBOR, whereas in reality these projects predate the OBOR initiative.
Yes, sir. I fully some of the points that I fully agree with you. First of all, the sources of the data. So far, that whatever I said here on Pakistan, it is the Pakistan government data. We sourced it because it is a joint collaborative project. As I said in my presentation, it is from Pakistan, it is SDPI, Sustainable Development Policy Institute. From Sri Lanka, it is LKI, Lakshman Kadaragama Institute. From Nepal, another organization. From Bangladesh, another organization. From India, me. So here it is from Pakistan. Data is government data shared to me by my collaborator in Pakistan. When it comes to Sri Lanka, it is again Sri Lankan government data. It is prepared by LKI scholars, which I presented. I can give you the detailed sources, like the the pie chart that I shared on the Sri Lankan data structure at the end of 2017. So that was even exact citation for the work from Sri Lankan Citibank publications. And then from the other major bulk of the data for 2013 to 2018, country sector-wise, we actually sourced from emerging market forum. Emerging market forum in Washington, they were Mr. Harinder Kohli, who is the CEO, and the World Bank. They were specially requested by Chinese government to work on the Belt and Road evaluation. So if you go to the World Bank, you will find that the World Bank has also started sharing those informations, collecting and sharing with you several papers, plus RAND Corporation in US. I will also send you another email. The gentleman who is heading the project on behalf of the Chinese government in US at RAND, they have also done a fair amount of data, which is shared by the Chinese government with the industries who work for them. One philanthropist from China donated about $1 billion 20 years back to the RAND. They set up a think tank in the RAND. Now they are using that to do the studies for the Chinese government. So using the US brains to work for them, and second, the China is now using, thinking to re-evaluating completely. So these are some sources, sir. Regarding the repackaging the old projects under BRI, that could be possible. Obviously, very they have there. Many of the projects are completed, but I have taken 2013 and 14 country as well. I started 15, 16, 17. The data is not shared by them. It may be there with the RAND or with the World Bank or with the Emerging Market Forum. But they have not yet coming to us. It's not coming to us. Maybe it's also with the Chinese government. So these are the credible sources, obviously, for the initial evaluation of the 5 years of the data. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you. That was a very, very informative piece, lecture. I have two sets of two questions. One has to do with the environmental aspects, which you just about touched on, but which actually today in the Brookings I'm from Duke University, there's a Duke University initiative that is covering the green effects or the environmental effects of all the BRI programs. But what is your impression? For example, you mentioned, it was interesting, that Pakistan has invited the sunset industries, that is coal and all their overcapacity and unused things. Now I had heard that before Pakistan-China Economic Corridor, CPEC, there was only 1% of Pakistan energy was from coal. Now it is 69% because of the third desert issue, right? Now, is this all on behalf of Pakistan's request? Did it want to do that? But more generally, it's the environmental issue. What is the kind of effect? What is the mode of negotiating the environmental issues also? The second is what you were talking about, transparency and contract management. Because, and in particular, I'm interested in the issue of default. Because you have these countries, by the way, I'm told you were saying only 11% and the interest rates are not very high, but apparently Port, I believe, has the financing involved 13% because of over 7% for insurance guarantees, right? So I mean, it's a very expensive affair for Pakistan. Otherwise, why would they be looking at re-looking at these things, right? But what happened? Argentina has defaulted 4 times, and it has gotten away, kind of. It keeps defaulting. But what happens? In London and New York, you can hold all kinds of. They have so many things going through them. You can hold a country, right, to ransom. But what will China do if Sri Lanka or Pakistan says forget it? What is their mode of? I mean, how much they can't bring, maybe military, I don't know. But what is the mode of contract management? I saw in the paper recently, Singapore has become a major. But what kinds of arrangements do they have?
Interesting questions, but I won't be able to answer.
Why?
But my view is on the sunset. This is I had when we met all people who were working on the BRI in Kathmandu in November. The Pakistani scholars, they said, we invited sunset industries, mainly the SEZs and industrial estates zones are lying vacant. They need to be filled up. So it is better that nobody, domestically you cannot mobilize investors to go and set up your units. So it is better to invite the sunset, because sunset industries may be consuming more conventional power, which is coal-based power, which is in Pakistan, like automobile. The great example they give the automobile, looking at Argentina-Brazil case, because China automobile sectors, there is a huge, surplus in the market. They are unbranded, many of them. So it is better automobiles and ancillaries you bring to those who are huge power consumption, water resources they require. So it is better to invite them, make use of the facilities. So that's what they are thinking, sunset industries, and you are very right. That could also not exactly looking at green or protecting the environment. So immediate priority is that they are buying, they are paying interest on the debt. Right. So, and there is interest plus other cost involved, which is the social domestic issues. If we build something with the foreign fund and there is no user, then my people will raise the questions tomorrow to the government. So it is better, compromise with the environmental obligations and just put. That's what they whisper that exact. They don't say upfront when we do and when we meet and discuss. Right. On the contract management, the Sri Lankans, they are of the opinion is that, or the Laupedia, because I work with ASEAN, so I had a fair amount of discussion with Laupedia government officials. They are thinking this, we are not going to pay any money.
Sorry?
We are not going to pay any money to the China, to the 15 billion US dollar, that's the amount for which they are given a sovereign guarantee to the Chinese authority for bringing the high speed from Kunming to Vientiane. And Vientiane, in Laos, it is very close to the border of Thailand.
I thought you were saying Sri Lanka, but they're not going to pay.
So their view is that, sometime we will just say, sorry, I don't have money.
That's exactly.
And let's discuss that time. Anyway, 20 years moratorium, no discussion now. They will just monitor what we are doing in implementation. So presently I am more interested that in Laupedia there is no railway infrastructure, at least railway line has come. So my political thing is well protected, and I have given some employment to the poor people because it is coming from the rural belt. And the exports that Lao period is doing, the coffee, maize, banana, rice, vegetables, which are going by road to the border, will pass it through watermelon, through by river line in the Yunnan and other provinces. That's what they are thinking, that one day we'll just say
That's Lao.
Lao. Sri Lankan government, I won't be able to tell, but they think that we'll be able to manage it very nicely. Once this international financial city comes, our Colombo Port Harbour project is done, and Hambantota port is started operating, and SEZ is filled up, then I
But
think.
is it operating? Hambantota, there's nothing going on.
No, but the port is there, port is there, you know.
What is there, but there's nothing.
No, but
But they
why?
already had to sort of give it a 99 years lease. I see a contradiction here. On the one hand, they're saying we are not worried. On the other hand, they've had to, this 99 years lease, and they've handed over Hambantota.
Yeah, it is running by the China Port Holding, CM Ports, for 99 years lease, but possibly why we don't see the vessels going there? Is that the questions of yours?
Well, partly, yeah, but, yeah.
Because now see, another reason is why it is not there. Because the Colombo port very much in the middle of east-west shipping line, main lines. So sailing the ship from Singapore, the stop at Colombo, and as you know that Colombo Port Harbour is within the city. So it is very nice to park your vessel and go back to rest in the hotel and other places. And then spend some time, transshipment is done, and after a week you start sailing the vessels from there and again stop at Salalah, which is in the Oman. So this is the route actually. Now once you do your business at Colombo, you don't feel that why should I go there and Hambantota if there is no local cargo. So until the local cargo comes in, that's why they are planning to build an SEZ, big SEZ, where the Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, they are going in textiles, ceramics, automobiles, and several others. So once this is filled up, and Hambantota area and Matala and Colombo, they are connecting in a high-speed corridor, highway. So all these things are done.
Local cargo
Will
for a country the size of Sri Lanka doesn't make sense.
Not much.
No, it's-
But they have
It
built,
makes political sense.
they have built a port for some other reason, but for here, the facilities are there. I see the big cranes are there. Vessels are lying unused. So coming to your, sir, to your queries, the 99 years lease.
No, it's part of a wider thing.
Yeah, so actually we'll build
Because
something.
Laos is a particular kind of case. Most countries cannot take that kind of position. Whether it's the countries in Africa, or whether we're talking of Sri Lanka, etc., if they cannot pay, then that, in terms of international credibility, credit ranking of a country, is a disaster.
Mombasa is also going, right?
So,
Mombasa is
I'm not quite sure when you say that Sri Lankans say we are not worried. I'm sure they must be worried.
Okay, I'm in comparison with Laos and Sri Lanka.
Laos belongs to a different category.
Of course, Sri
Laos
Lanka,
is
they
a
said that is not
practically Chinese
or
colony.
anywhere, that they are not going to repay the loan.
Strength
They
may
will
be
be.
derived from
Huh?
Vietnam. The strength may be derived from Vietnam.
No, its strength is derived from China itself. Laos
It's
is
like a
sitting
province,
pretty-
it's not a colony.
Well, if anyway, 20 years moratorium I can understand. If you got 20 years moratorium, fine, but if you don't have. But apart from that, very simple, I'm sorry, there must be a very simple answer to this question, this 75% of global population. Does that include Chinese population also?
Obviously.
And it doesn't include India.
So I had
65 actually.
I had 2 or 3 sort of seeking clarifications. Quite early on in your presentation, quite unrelated to BRI, I was very interested in your statement that it's not just India which is standing in the way of smooth movement of RCEP, but China too. And and Japan too. Yeah, I was not aware of that. See, because of e-commerce.
E-commerce, yes.
Okay.
Because they don't allow Amazon, Google, Facebook, whereas there is a huge support for them to bring to the. So this is an area where, the text has to be same for equally all. So here, e-commerce chapter, you could not. Whereas the difficult chapter, which is on the standards, all have agreed and finished it.
So who's objecting to Amazon, Google and so on?
China.
But you say India is also objecting? No.
Well, the chief negotiator,
I cannot, I think.
their chief negotiator, he said in the other day in Ikria that he didn't express anything. He said we're just having a new friends in RCEP block.
No, I think they mentioned that we wanted a framework to be in place. Then only e-commerce should get going. That was not,
In the frame.
expand this way or that way.
I wanted to ask two questions, which probably, where you said initially one of the thematic areas is really has been the soft infrastructure.
I just request.
Why, how the,
Please identify yourself. We started with Professor Prasad Dwara, last time.
I'm Govind Stater.
Just for record.
Sure, from Landesa organization. I've been in China's political economy for some time. So, not studying BRI, but there is a growing interest, and I was in Asian Institute of Technology, AIT, and there are some earlier students, some are there. In fact, next month I will be going for, or mid of February, I will be going for a meeting where in Malaysia, where there is a lot of kind of interest and anxiety about BRI. They call it only by initiative kind of thing, but a meeting is being held in Penang. So that is it. And civil society groups, women's groups, they come. And probably that's what I wanted to ask two questions. That one is that how soft infrastructure is being used. You of course dealt with the major energy and roads project, energy infrastructure. And second is that NDP's role, where China has some kinds of implicit and explicit prominence. Why NDB is New Development Bank? Why New Development Bank is not being used for this? And probably you think that your conclusion is very valid, that it should be not only China project, a global project. And if they can make use of the NDB, then probably it can have the face of a global project, definitely a developing world's project. So, any thoughts on these two?
And also the infrastructure bank is also.
That's right.
Actually, on the soft infrastructure under BRI, there are some projects, as Sir said, and you know it very well. They are all development cooperation projects. They put it under BRI category. So extending, scholarships, visiting fellowship, these, that, all now they are under BRI. But they are telling that we'd like to give specific, if anybody is coming to study BRI economics, if anybody wants to do a PhD on the BRI at Fudan or here and there, we would like to. So this is what they are thinking, bigger scale. So that's in the last workshop that we had in Kathmandu, the Chinese scholars who came from Sichuan, who came from Beijing, who came from Yunnan, they're all telling that's what the Chinese government is thinking. So maybe they will be placing some, but 3 or 4 Chinese scholars, senior scholars who were with us, they all said that Belt and Road Initiative is not just the hardware infrastructure development. We have to do lots on the software infrastructure. So they might be coming up, this is a matter of time, I think very soon they will launch something. Individually they are doing, I have seen invitation from several universities, etc. under BRI, but biggest projects in the soft infrastructure development, they will be somehow coming up. NDB and AIIB, I think NDB mandate is more into the new projects in the country, by the 4 countries. AIIB is multilateralized, but AIIB taken a route. They picked up the mistakes from ADB and the World Bank. So they are not giving directly financing any projects, if you see. They are all coming as a co-financing. Either government is there, they are coming with, they are picking up the bulk, and India is the largest borrower among all this from the
Andhra
AAA.
Pradesh.
Yes, Karnataka, also Gujarat. Now everything goes to Gujarat, so AII is also there, and I'm not surprised that the NDB is also there. So NDB, I think,
So who
because
gets the bulk of the money? The NDB and the AIIB?
and no, there is no NDB and AIB joined.
No. You saying they get
What
the
are you
bulk.
reading?
Who's the they?
AIIB. NDB's mandates are different. They are more into sustainable development, SDG projects. So, but you are very right.
Just in name. I mean, you see their project, somebody is monitoring the Madhya Pradesh one group. We are part of the BRICS Feminist Watch. And we are also surprised that we get personal letters of invitation to Shanghai to come and visit. Of course, no travel support. But when we are there, they are good hearing, president, vice president, all comes. So this facade is maintained. But it is very important how soft infrastructure, which has been one of the core policy of China's development, is really being used for the roads, energy, whether we call it hard infrastructure or not. That's very important.
Your observation is very correct.
But if I may just add here, there is one of the most important things which also has, you've also completely negated the military component.
I'm not an
There is the
expert.
Beidou, that is the GPS, the Chinese GPS, superior to Google, I'm told, is now being given to Pakistan for military strategic purposes, for targeting and so on. I mean, so there is an overlap.
Which I'm not an expert, so I'm not supposed to.
Just one,
Sorry.
little bit on your question on why they're not, question on NDDB and NDB, New Development Bank, and AIIB. See, both these banks at present are being run in a fairly professional manner. AIIB, Chindichun, the president, he has been very clear that he learns from some of the mistakes made by international development banks and to go for best governance practices. Besides, promotion of BRI is not part of the charter of AIIB. India happens to be actually second largest stakeholder. So projects are being funded at present according to relatively, transparent criteria. In case of New Development Bank or BRICS Bank, 5 countries hold equal equity. So
China has
they all have equal equity, 20% each. All have equal equity. So there again, NDB under Mr. Kamath is not quite a vehicle for promotion of BRI. So these two banks are in a very different category compared to policy banks of China, CDB and Exim Bank.
My question was not the difference. Why China is not using that?
So that's why I'm saying
Lot of
China
personalities
is
from the
not
World
in a
Bank.
position to, or
Influence.
at present not really inclined to use these two banks. It cannot even use the two banks the way it's using CDB and Exim Bank. It doesn't quite control these two banks in the same manner.
Going back to the financing issue, you mentioned it takes the form of both equity and debt. Is there an emerging pattern on the ratio between the two? And is there any, on each project, is there a requirement of local participation in terms of funds, either as equity or as local counterpart funds? Or it's 100% Chinese funding?
Sir, under the Silk Road Fund, it has both, that's what the data indicates. It can be 100% by the Chinese, it can be with the local partner, with jointly with the local partner, picking up the minor stakeholder. But when it goes to the prime lending under the BRI from the Chinese, there is always they feel that we should have a local partner. So the projects that we have seen in Sri Lanka and Pakistan here, everywhere there is a local partner, it's a minority stakeholder. So probably that trends are on other projects as well. I won't be able to tell you much because for other projects like in Kenya or Ethiopia or in other areas. But these two where local partners are there. They insist that there should be a local partner.
I thought I'd clarify a few issues on this. This entire One Belt One Road, the termination point is Europe. And most of the study that we do, or since we are in India and we are in South Asia, they revolve around what is happening around South Asia, ASEAN, etc., etc. The crux of this whole thing lies in the way Europe handles this. And if you look at the kind of agreement that was signed during the summit in 2017, none of the European countries signed the agreement, trade agreement with the Chinese. So the issue that we need to look at more and more is on the European leg of the One Belt One Road. The second thing that we generally miss out in many of our, the way we look at One Belt One Road is the digital Silk Road. The digital Silk Road is extremely important basically because to power the AI and the quantum technologies in China, the entire data goes from this digital Silk Road back into the countries wherever they have put the ICT thing on ground in many of the countries. The third thing is the coal-based energy in Pakistan. There was a question. If you look at the energy needs of Pakistan today, its generation is approximately 17 gigawatts. Its consumption is 14 gigawatts. And with the BRI projects coming and CPEC projects coming and completing it, it will go to 35 gigawatts of production of power, which Pakistan cannot use. Second thing is the coal-based power project that we are talking about. Basically, China is winding up all the coal-based electrical projects in China. And those are being palmed off to Pakistan. And the problem came up later when they found that the coal that they were trying to use in these factories, in these power plants, is not qualitatively sufficient. So now Pakistan is being forced to import coal to power these plants. Default on loans, environmental question is the last of the priorities, by the way. Somebody had a question on the environmental issues. I think you had.
Yeah.
That seems to be the last on their priorities as far as all these projects are concerned. There was a question of the default of loans by Pakistan or any other country for that matter. The arbitration for these two, arbitration for these projects is by two courts which are located in China. One is in Xi'an, the other one is in Beijing. The one which you read about, Singapore being part of it, came, I think, in today's newspapers. Singapore is looking at leveraging this entire BRI project as I would say an assessor or a person who can evaluate these projects and take a commission out of it. That is the way Singapore is looking at their role as far as this is concerned. As far as default on loans are concerned, two ways, that is, one is arbitration is to be done only in China, and second thing is they are looking at something in lieu. Please look at the Hambantota case. When they were not able to pay, what they went in for is higher equity, one. Two, take land in terms of for a longer period of lease period. You look at anywhere else, there's the same analogy that will work. Even in Pakistan, if you studied that Dawn report which came up in 2017 June, the draft final plan that was put out, it was leaked actually, that looked at 10,000 square kilometers of land being sought from Pakistan on this land. So basically what they are looking at is taking up land in lieu of the loan that they need to get from them. The loan moratorium of 20 years, please do not apply the same analogy that you will apply to Laos and Cambodia. These are countries which are actually having much better relationship with China, and China would like to have them on its turf, basically because of their influence that they need to exercise in ASEAN. So the same analogy will not be applicable to even other ASEAN countries or even any other country for that matter. Hambantota shipping, I would not be so negatively poised about Hambantota as of now, basically because when there were no ships going, it was Hyundai Motors from Chennai that was sending their shipping to Hambantota. And after the Chinese have taken over this port, the shipping traffic in Hambantota has increased. It has come to almost 200 plus ships in a year now, from 15 ships in a year. So it is picking up some kind of traction there. As far as Gwadar is concerned, Chinese are building a Chinese city for 500,000 people, and it is going to be purely a Chinese city. And Saudi Arabia is going to build a refinery. They have already pledged $2 billion worth of refinery being brought up in Gwadar. The problem there is, Saudi refinery is not considered to be part of CPEC. It is, initially also if you remember, when Mr. Imran Khan came to power, he went to Saudi Arabia to take some investment. Immediately then they said that it will not be part of CPEC. Basically because when you say China-Pakistan economic corridor, and if third country comes in, then you have a problem of calling it a China-Pakistan economic corridor. It becomes a multilateral kind of an issue. And therein lies the problem of One Belt, One Road. If you look at all the agreements that have been signed, it's all bilateral. There is no multilateral arrangement in the entire project. I do have a question regarding this BRI as an economic and a business opportunity. Many of the academics and some of the business people would like to believe that. But if you look at what are you going to export and what are you going to import, you will get a cost-benefit analysis which will probably not prove this particular statement very correct. Pushback to One Belt, One Road on many of the countries. In fact, we counted approximately 20-odd countries which are now trying to push back on the One Belt, One Road. Right from Sierra Leone, which has refused an airport, Zambia, you can count those countries. There are about 20-odd countries now at the moment which are pushing back. Coming April is going to be the next summit on BRI. What is expected in that summit is generally, there is likely to be some kind of revision to the norms of BRI because of the pushback that the Chinese are facing. There is likely to be some kind of an adjustment which will probably come up. There is a question on PEITO. PEITO is a system which is nothing new. It has been there for a very long time. This year, China is going to launch 10 satellites on PEITO and then complete the PEITO system for the global coverage. They have already linked it up with GPS and GLONASS both, and Galileo. So what is going to happen is it is going to have a global coverage, which if you are a customer of PEITO, you will be able to access all the GPS, the positioning devices wherever in the world. So this is something which, whether they give it to Pakistan is a different question, but even if they give it to Pakistan, they need to be able to use it. That is a different issue. In the sense that the technology of using these GPS positioning for various missiles, etc., is going to be a question mark even with Pakistan for the time being. On the NDB AIB, these two banks are functioning on a multilateral system. It is open, like Ambassador Khan brought out. It's a multilateral kind of a system that they are following. And that is why you find many of even the European countries have joined this AIB as a member. Since, as I explained earlier, One Belt, One Road has been bilateral in nature, bilateral and the multilateral cannot be going together. And that is one of the reasons why NDB and AIB are not funding the One Belt, One Road initiative. On the equity to debt, there was a question. Generally, they look for 85-15. 85-15 in the sense of, firstly, they look for a local contribution, like Dr. Day mentioned. And even when the country is not able to meet that requirement, there are many countries which are not able to meet that requirement, including Myanmar in the Chakview project. They were to give $300 million, which are not able to pay. So the Chinese offer a loan on that also. So we will pay you that money as a loan and then we'll charge an interest on it. When the default, etc. comes up into play, they look for a 85-15 debt to equity ratio, equity to debt ratio. And when the countries start fighting back, they generally settle around 75-30, 75-25 or 70-30. That is the way they settle down. You look at Chakview, you look at Hambantota, you look at any of the other projects. That is the ratio generally they come home on to. 70-30 is, they don't go below 70-30. Thank you.
Yeah. Veda?
I'm Veda, I'm a researcher at the ICS. So you showed a graph where you showed where BRI was in 2013 and then in 2017, and it has spread in most countries in the African continent. So my question to you was, how did you define what a BRI project was? Like, what constitutes a BRI project? The reason I ask you this is there are a lot of Chinese companies which are private companies, that are state-owned companies that aren't necessarily working on China EXIM funding, right? Some of them are doing projects on like the World Bank funding. And also on the field, when you talk to Chinese contractors who are working in Africa, when you're working on these projects, they don't seem to have any clue of what even the BRI is. Right, so these are people who are heading these projects who don't necessarily identify with the BRI. So I was wondering how your definition for it came about.
So definition is there is a list of projects by country on the BRI. So we identify the country in the legend we are given. And, based on that, if it is say Kenya, if Kenya is having a railway line, so it is a BRI country.
So this is the Chinese data or the Kenyan data?
The Chinese data.
Okay.
Chinese.
Because some of them aren't there in the Kenyan, the African side, for instance.
This is Chinese data actually.
Okay.
So as I said in the beginning, the disclaimer that these are all on approved basis, not actual. So actually what happened, how much it went, how much is implemented, how much is utilized, I have no idea about it. Because those things are very really required. That's what we have been telling, that we have the database and make it as a global project, multilateral project, then you will be able to come to know all the information. So otherwise it will be very difficult.
Any question on this side? I just the last point, your recommendation that China should move from the present position where BRI is essentially a Chinese project and structured as a series of bilateral agreements. So even if you have a project which goes across national boundaries, covers several countries, there is no multilateral agreement. These are all agreements signed by China with concerned countries. Do you see any evidence at present of a shift, even if it's incipient or very limited, from this China-centric model with accent on bilateral agreements to a multilateral model?
As you know that...
I'm asking that also in context of the point that Narasimhan made, that as we move towards April 2019, second BRI forum, there is a good possibility that some course correction will take place. Is this one area? I doubt it, because it's very difficult for them to move from move to multilateral.
Chinese scholars who are directly involved in BRI projects in Beijing and the rest, they are indicating that we need to learn from our mistakes. So what are their mistakes? So they must be doing it. And that's why one is they said that we would like to focus more on soft infrastructure. They realize the debt burden to developing an LDC is actually didn't like by many countries. And that's what Chandru said. The same tone, I think this we found also from the Chinese side as well. But which way they do the course correction, I don't know. That may be a few months from now they will, but they have set up a high-powered team to look at, evaluate the BRI. It's driven at the institute called Development Research Center with GRC. So where they are involved to look, but DRC is actually steering their study and the policy and the strategy for the Chinese government. That's what I think. They will be coming out from more bilateral push with more into multilateral push, or some kind of a sub-regional or regional arrangements, at least, instead of making a deal. But that's my purely hunch. That much I can tell you. It's a very difficult question to reply, but.
Another point which you had made earlier, I just request you to elaborate a little bit. Japan's approach towards BRI. There has been a marked shift in Japan.
Yes. In 2017, Japan didn't join the BRI forum, and it was open that they are not going into it. But now, in parallel, somehow this Japanese version, because recently I had an opportunity to work with Foreign Affairs Ministry in Japan, the scholars with them. Their view is that they have been trapped by Indians fighting against China, which is, they are not in their mind. And as you know, that Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, they are withdrawn. And we have written so much in the media, but Japan has communicated to External Affairs Ministry, they are not part of this anymore. It is merged with now that India-Pacific, that FY. Now, Japan has made it very openly that we are going into Belt and Road Initiative project because this is a business opportunity for them. And the companies are getting orders. And I have said you that Toshiba or Kawasaki or Mitsubishi, some or others, getting more and more business orders. So that's what their view is, that instead of opposing, which it's joined in the BRI, so that your companies get business. Plus, they should not repeat the mistakes they did under Asia-Africa Growth Corridor move. Recently, we are doing some projects, and they have checked with us, I must, because you were secretariat, right? Where we set up the ASEAN Center. The trilateral highway extension. We are almost about to complete the trilateral highway, and it's going on. But now it is very few kilometers left to. So 31st March 2021. Before that, it has to be. It has to be inaugurated. But if I go by that, then now the government of India, they are in negotiation with ASEAN countries for extending it to Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam with Japan. Now the Japanese, and we are doing a study, about to study. Initial meeting when we all met, the Japanese told us both. We had 2+ meeting, one at Jakarta and then Tokyo, back to back. All this checked with me and others. They don't want to repeat the mistakes they did in Asia. China should not look at this extension of the trilateral highway from Delhi to all the way to Ho Chi Minh and then to Phnom Penh as a counter of the BRI projects. They don't want to get into that. So Chinese, of course, they look at the BRI. It's a business opportunity. They also do not like to, in between the fight between some countries, they don't want to get in there. That's all.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.